I'm the only survivor.
In the blink of an eye, her life was changed forever. Targeted by a ruthless serial killer, she faced the unimaginable, fighting for her life against a predator who had already taken countless others. But in a desperate struggle for survival, she did what no one expected. She escaped. This is the unbelievable true story of a woman who faced death head-on and defied the odds, proving that even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can find a way to survive. Prepare to be amazed by her incredible story of survival. The killer's pattern. A chilling trail of death. The serial killer had been active for months, leaving behind a horrifying trail of victims scattered across different cities. At first, the murders seemed unrelated, with the victims coming from diverse backgrounds and having no apparent connection to one another. This made it incredibly difficult for authorities to predict the killer's next move. Each crime followed a disturbingly similar pattern, characterized by a specific method of attack and a signature that set the murders apart from ordinary violent crimes. The brutality and precision of the killings led investigators to believe they were dealing with a highly organized predator, one who took pleasure in the control and fear they instilled in their victims. As the body count continued to rise, the police were left scrambling to find any leads that could help them identify the killer. Despite the mounting pressure, the killer remained elusive, always managing to stay one step ahead of law enforcement. The killer's method was disturbingly efficient, often striking in isolated areas where they could evade detection. Authorities had little to go on, and the fear of a serial killer stalking the cities spread quickly, leaving the public terrified and the police force under immense pressure to solve the case. Little did anyone know, the killer's next victim would become the key to finally unraveling the mystery behind the horrifying murders.
I held onto my belt behind my back so it looked like I was still tied up.
The fateful encounter. A brush with death. It was just another ordinary day when she unknowingly crossed paths with the serial killer. The killer, known for being meticulous and calculating, spotted her as an easy target. At first, there was nothing unusual, just a woman going about her day in a public space, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. But soon, the killer approached her with the intent to strike. The attack was swift and violent, catching her off guard. But in those critical moments, something remarkable happened. She didn't freeze in fear. Instead, her instincts kicked in, and she fought back with everything she had. The encounter was a matter of life or death, and her survival instinct overpowered the fear that gripped her. As the killer attempted to overpower her, she used her environment to her advantage, creating just enough chaos to break free from his hold. Every second counted, and every movement had to be calculated. With every ounce of her strength, she managed to escape from his grasp, running for her life. What could have been the end of her story was just the beginning of a harrowing fight for survival. But despite the odds, she refused to become another victim, sparking a dangerous chase that would change her life forever. Surviving the attack, strength and willpower. Once she broke free from the killer's initial grip, the real battle for survival began. Adrenaline coursed through her veins as she ran for her life, knowing the killer would not give up easily. She had to use every ounce of strength and resourcefulness to stay ahead of her attacker. Despite the killer's relentless pursuit, she remained focused, her survival instincts taking over. The shock and fear that came with being hunted by a ruthless predator pushed her to her physical and emotional limits, but she refused to surrender. Each step she took, every corner she turned, was a deliberate effort to escape her would-be murderer. Her strength wasn't just physical, it was a mental battle too. In those desperate moments, she had to stay calm and think strategically. She knew that panic would only lead to her downfall, so she took quick, calculated actions to outwit the killer. Using her surroundings, she found places to hide, making sure to cover her tracks and confuse him at every turn. Her will to survive, coupled with her sharp thinking and refusal to give in, allowed her to stay one step ahead of her attacker. This fight wasn't just about escaping a killer. It was about fighting against every instinct of fear and doubt, proving that strength of will can be as powerful as any physical force. The chase. Outwitting a predator. After breaking free from the killer's initial grasp, the woman found herself in a desperate race against time, constantly aware that her pursuer wasn't far behind. The killer, relentless and determined, wasn't willing to let go of his prey so easily. She realized that simply running wasn't enough. She had to think strategically to survive. The chase through the streets was intense, with each step feeling like a step closer to death. Yet she used her surroundings to her advantage. Every alleyway, every building, every shadow became a potential hiding spot or escape route. With her heart pounding, she did not allow herself to be cornered. She used everything at her disposal to evade the killer's grasp. Knowing that the killer was intelligent and persistent, she crafted false trails to throw him off her scent. She would take sharp turns, double back on herself, and hide in plain sight, staying as quiet as possible to avoid detection. The longer the chase continued, the more she relied on her instincts and ingenuity, forcing the killer into a game he hadn't anticipated. The fear of being caught was constant, but her determination was even stronger. By outwitting the predator, she bought herself precious moments that kept her alive. Each escape tactic wasn't just a matter of evasion. It was her way of taking control in a situation where she was supposed to be helpless. Through sheer will and quick thinking, she defied the odds, keeping the killer at bay long enough for help to arrive. The moment of salvation. Police to the rescue. Just as the killer closed in, the woman saw a glimmer of hope. Her salvation came in the form of a police patrol nearby. Exhausted, terrified, and knowing she couldn't outrun him much longer, she made a daring decision. Summoning every last bit of energy, she ran toward the officers, screaming for help. Her voice, filled with panic and desperation, reached the officers just in time. Without hesitation, the police sprang into action, responding immediately to the distress. The urgency of the situation was clear, and within moments, they had surrounded the area and began searching for the killer, who was now aware that his prey had escaped his grasp. The killer, now realizing his window of opportunity was closing, tried to flee the scene, hoping to evade capture. However, the police were quick to react, launching a coordinated effort to apprehend him. The woman, though still shaken by the ordeal, watched as officers closed in on the killer, who was no longer in control of the situation. Thanks to her bravery and quick thinking, law enforcement was able to take the killer into custody before he could harm anyone else. The feeling of safety and relief that followed was overwhelming for the woman, who had just narrowly escaped a terrifying death, marking the end of a long and harrowing ordeal. The aftermath. A survivor's story. In the days and weeks following her terrifying ordeal, the woman was left to grapple with the emotional and psychological aftermath of her near-death experience. The trauma of having been hunted by a serial killer and the constant fear of not knowing whether she would survive took a heavy toll on her. Though the killer was apprehended, the scars left on her mind would remain. She underwent therapy and leaned on her support network to help her process the events. But despite the pain, she refused to let her past define her. Rather than being consumed by fear, she chose to reclaim her life, drawing strength from her incredible survival and the courage it took to escape her attacker. Her story quickly became an inspiration to many, as her survival showed the world what the human spirit is capable of when faced with unimaginable terror. She became an advocate for victims of violent crime, sharing her story to raise awareness and help others who might be struggling with similar experiences. Her courage and resilience in the face of such darkness were a testament to her inner strength. Although the traumatic events of that night would forever be a part of her, she used them as a platform to help others find hope and healing. In her survival, she not only overcame the killer's attempt on her life, but also emerged as a powerful symbol of perseverance and the indomitable will to live. Her survival is a testament to the incredible strength of the human spirit. Against all odds, she faced a serial killer with nothing but her will to live, and in doing so, she defied the very limits of fear. Her story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, we can find the courage to fight back. While the trauma of that night will never fade, her strength, resilience, and unwavering determination became a beacon of hope for others. She is a living proof that survival is not just about escaping death, but about reclaiming your life after tragedy.